Hey everybody, it's Cam from the Book Review. Today I will be reviewing He Who Fights with Monsters. As soon as the dog quits walking across the hardwood floor. Oh, Maple. Today I will be reviewing He Who Fights with Monsters by Travis Deverell, aka Shirtaloon. This is also the first book in the series of the same name. There's currently 10 books out. The 11th is being written as we speak. This is one that, actually much like Matt Denneman for Dungeon Crawler Carl, the author, Travis, is constantly writing this series on Patreon. I think I looked it up. Dungeon Crawler Carl has like a little over 9,000 paying Patreon members, where Matt, does most of his early writing. This one, when I looked at it last, was like 11,600, so even a bigger series than Dungeon Crawler Carl. Both of them, as far as Goodreads ratings, are far below the Will White's Cradle series, but they are still big fish in the LitRPG pond. This is where I would normally start reading the book blurb, but I did a Twitter and YouTube poll here recently, and it was like 70-30 to scrap that book blurb. So we'll just get right on into the world building part. Right up top should still be the part where if you want to skip all that stuff and get to my bad, the good, and the final thoughts. So this is a book. It's a portal lit RPG. One thing that's important to know is there are, you've got some where people are already in their worlds. They choose to go off and do the adventuring. You have the portal fantasy where an unsuspecting person goes off. That's what He Who Fights with Monsters is. The acronym, if you're typing this all the time, is HWFWM, but it's way easier to type, but it somehow is still much easier to say He Who Fights with Monsters out loud. We have a main character named Jason. He is Australian. He was just living a pretty mundane life. Didn't really get along that well with his family. Was a middle manager doing, I think, office supplies. That's what the description says, but we don't actually, I don't think, find that out here. And he wakes up one morning and he is in a like a maze, and suddenly has a heads-up display telling him that he has a quest. He's completely naked, has zero hair on his body, apparently getting pulled through that portal, got rid of all of that, basically created a new body that his soul inhabits. And so he suddenly has to figure out what's going on. His initial thoughts are that he's still dreaming, but then, things seem real. A murder hamster tries to kill him. He manages to beat that off, and then decides that, maybe this is a dream. Maybe he's had a mental breakdown. Whatever the case is, he better take it seriously in case it is real. He manages to go through, do some quests, do a few things here and there. He ends up getting captured by some murderous cannibals, finds some other adventurers, and they all manage to break out. And once they get to this other town, suddenly they explain everything to him as they're on their trek. He figures things out and realizes that he actually is indeed in a secondary world. Let's talk about that world real quick. I really liked the secondary world. We have a world that basically what the whole premise is that Earth is in one universe, one dimension, floating out there doing its thing. There are a bunch of other dimensions that you can be pulled to. Earth is a almost no magic dimension. And the place that he gets taken to is high magic. So, everyone can use magic. Adventurers are a big thing. The reason they are is because there is so much magic in this world that monsters are created, and it's necessary to put those monsters down before they end up going insane and going on a rampage and hurting the regular people. The way the magic system works in this one, the leveling system, I guess, is the important thing to talk about when you're doing the lit RPG, is actually a really cool thing here. I really liked how it was done. You get essences, basically. And then you have what are called awakening stones that you can absorb that can give you what you want, but there's a little bit of randomness to it. But the essences that you have are really important into what those spells could end up being. So Jason, he ends up finding his first few essences through those cannibals and all the dark things that they're doing. So he basically ends up being like this warlock necromancer type character. All of his damage abilities are basically like debuffs, bleed, poison, curses, that kind of stuff, right? So he's kind of a scary character, even though personality-wise he's friendly for the most part. At least he's going to be friendly to you as long as you're friendly to him. He's got that like laid-back Aussie style that I think us as Americans would imagine that he was going to have. Then what you have to do from that point then is use those skills just like you would in any sort of role-playing game that you'd play, whether it's anything from Fallout. Been watching the TV show, which I actually really like, so I guess there's where my first thought went to World of Warcraft, any of that kind of stuff, right? You use your skills and you level up. And then the way this one works for the leveling system is that you start off as iron rank, then you'll go bronze, then silver, then gold, then diamond. Lots of people are iron rank. It seems like most people that are actual adventurers will get to bronze rank. From there, silver requires some real work. Gold is fairly rare. In the place that we're dealing with, we only actually even see one other gold rank. And then diamond rank is, the absolute hardest. There are very few of those in the world. An important thing to note too is that as you level up, you live longer. So like silver rankers, I think it said would live, a couple hundred years. Gold rankers are looking at like 500 plus. And the diamonds are rumored to be immortal. So that might be a little bit different leveling system than some of the other ones I've read so far, where you have to get each of your skills up, and then over a whole bunch of things, as opposed to like being level 1 and then level 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Getting into the bad, the good, and my final thoughts. The bad. This one basically all boils down to Jason, our main character. Jason is a character who very, very strongly believes that the power structure in the world that he ends up in is unfair, and that a meritocracy, democracy, whatever, needs to be put into place. And he feels like part of his reason for being there, almost, it feels like, is to change how the world is run. Right? It is a world of nobility, lords, an oligarchy, rich and powerful families. Control everything from the magic crystals that you can get, all the way on. Being an adventurer is your ticket up potentially, but if you are come from a poor family, then you're far less likely to be able to become an adventurer. And if you do, then you're probably going to be beholden to those rich nobility, people, because it's very, very expensive to go out and get the essences that you need, as well as the awakening stones. Jason basically lucks into most of his right off the bat, and his survival, he ends up getting several of them right off the bat because of that, right? Jason is kind of an asshole, let's be honest. He's a super laid-back dude for the most part, but once things get going, he's real quick to tell everybody that they're wrong, that they need to change their ways, and he's not going about it in like a nice way. He's kind of in your face. He gets punched in the face a lot in this one, and I don't think there was a single time where, even if the people who punch him in the face are jerks and aren't good people, he still really deserved to get punched in the face most of the time, because he's kind of, like I said, he disdains the power structure so much that he's just going to be an asshole to anyone who is in charge. Now, I feel like he's real lucky that he had the plot armor of being the main character, because he probably would have been murdered real quick, even with his powers, because it's important to note that like an Iron Ranker, like a very high iron ranker and a very low bronze ranker aren't that far away in power, but like a high bronze ranker and a high and a low iron ranker are like, as much as a 50% power difference. Once you get to silver ranker, like it doesn't matter how talented Jason would be as an iron ranker, like he's never going to defeat a silver ranker, right? And the same, like a gold ranker is basically like a one-man army that, on their own could wipe out hundreds of iron rankers, right? And never even get touched. So he's still just like a jerk to these people. The other thing is that he's an atheist, and in this world, the gods are very real. I mean, Jason meets at least 3 or 4 gods during the course of this book, and he still tries to hold to his like atheist ideals, which is another same thing, right? Like, the thing is that I agree on Earth terms with most of what Jason believes. But the problem is that he's in another world now where the gods are not only real, like you can see the gods, fairly regularly if you're an adventurer and you want to see them, right? The priests of these gods see these gods regularly. So we're not talking like, here on Earth where you can believe in miracles or not, but your God's not going to be walking the earth with you. The same thing with like, this whole power structure thing. Like he mouths off to a lot of people that are, super powerful and who potentially should, just wipe him out and they would have almost zero repercussions. And they seem to like him. People just seem to like Jason, even though he's just a lot. Like he's in your face. And I don't know. I just didn't particularly care for Jason. The other thing that, some people would think of that's, much more minor is that the leveling is way slower in this case, I feel like, than in some of the other books. That whole iron, the ranking system did take me a little bit to like really take to, but I ended up actually really liking it because within each of the 4 essences that you end up with, you have 5 different skills. They tend to be like fairly complementary. So, Jason basically, as he gets all of his skills, he doesn't actually have all 20 of them when book 1 ends, but he basically becomes like a juggernaut of like a necromancer, right? Like, so all of your skills should end up, working for you. And I don't want to, and one thing that's important to note too is I mention all this, he gets his 4 essences pretty early in the book. And then over the course, he'll get, a bunch of the other, those awakening stones. So it's not, being spoilery by saying that, he becomes a warlock. If I'd read the book blurb, like that's what it would say that he has basically, he's considered evil with his skills, right? A lot of people, if they'd have sought out the same skills that Jason had, would have been doing it because they were like evil cultists or something. So getting into the good. I loved the world building. I loved the magic system by the end. I loved the way you leveled up with each of the skills, right? It's cool. Like Jason has his heads-up display and his quest system and all that stuff because he's actually an outworlder now. He is no longer considered a human. His race is now outworlder. And when he got pulled into this world, the system gave him basically the ability to deal with what he was dealing with, right? He's now in this magical world. So his AI and some of his skills, like being able to talk to everybody and all of the stuff that you would come to expect if we were just playing an RPG game, then he's got that stuff because the world gave it to him, and it definitely does give him a leg up and helps explain, I guess, maybe some of the reason why people have him around. But I thought that was all really awesome. I thought the world is just really cool, really varied. The way it was put together, the quest system, all that stuff. I really liked reading all that stuff. When Jason is on his own and he's not in other groups, I kind of really, really enjoyed that part of the book because, you're not like hearing him in his head, like, plotting revolution or telling everybody that they're wrong for the way they believe. And so I liked those parts a lot. I just really liked the quests and things like that. It's just a really, really cool system that I enjoyed from a purely, like, how is this book put together? I'm also... another like good point in this one is that I am now on like my 5th LitRPG different series at the moment. Some of them are really poorly written and really poorly edited, and I think that that's the case because in a lot of this stuff, like with LitRPG, it's really all about just putting out as much material as you can. Matt Dinneman for Dungeon Crawler Carl, he's putting out like a chapter every couple of weeks on his Patreon. He even has a second series that he just got a publishing deal with Ace. And so, a lot of times this stuff isn't necessarily the best, like from a writing standpoint, and everyone just wants to get their next adventure, right? In this case, though, the writing is top notch. The editing is great. The narrator was really good. Not Dungeon Crawler Carl level for me, since I did listen to this one on audiobook, but still, I didn't have any issues with that. All in all, I think that the real issue for me here is just Jason, that I found him to be kind of insufferable. I'm going to give this book a 7 out of 10 because of that. We're going to call it a 10 out of 10 on world building and about a 5 out of 10 for main character for me. Just didn't click with Jason. Other than that, I probably will come back to this one and go to the second one at some point, but I need a break from Jason. I have talked both on Reddit and Facebook in the LitRPG groups that Jason doesn't get better if that's, if you don't like him. People either love Jason or hate Jason. I had something like 40 or 50 comments when I said, what's the deal with Jason? And it's pretty split where people are either like, yep, couldn't keep going because I just hated Jason, or Jason's the greatest. He's definitely a polarizing figure. If there's more than 11,000 paying Patreon members, so clearly Travis has a character that a lot of people like. But I'm told that he's very similar to this for the entire 10 books with only slight deviations, and so it's going to be a little while before I do the next book. 7 out of 10. Great world building, great lit RPG elements, but didn't like the main character for me. I'm going to continue doing several of these interspersed with non-lit RPGs for a while because, I decided that I was going to see after Dungeon Crawler Carl if I was a big fan of this genre or if I just liked Dungeon Crawler Carl. Turns out I love world building enough at this point in my life that I am a fan of the genre. As I mentioned, I'm currently reading one series and listening to another, so I'm up to 5 series since I first did Dungeon Crawler Carl now, and I'll intersperse those books with non-lit RPGs over the next couple months. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoy my videos, and have a great time reading. Thanks.